So it seems like Sean Strickland versus Anthony Hernandez is in the works, and it should have been in UFC Australia, but there was some disputes about health insurance, if I'm not mistaken, for both parties as well. But even if this fight doesn't happen, I still think it's very interesting, especially considering that Anthony Hernandez is a bit untested. He only has one arguable elite win, and that's Brendan Allen. Sean Strickland, on the other hand, has three at the very least, that being Israel Adesanya, Dricus du Plessis in the first fight. He won that one, bite me, as well as a young Nazardine Imavov. Most of Fluffy's wins are B's and A's at best. The only A fighter I think he has on his resume is Brendan Allen. Aside from that, it's either B or below. Whereas Sean Strickland has a plethora of B fighters on his resume. So you can't say Anthony Hernandez's record has looked better than Sean Strickland in his last few fights because they just haven't been facing the same opponents. Sean had to face Dricus du Plessis twice, as well as Israel Adesanya, Paulo Costa. These are all killers, relatively speaking, at least. And let's isolate their styles. For Sean Strickland, I think one thing that stands out for him, aside from his defense, is his pressure. And that makes it a lot harder for Anthony Hernandez, who also works on pressure as well. He's relentless and he goes for the takedowns. A lot of people call him the middleweight Marab. But Sean Strickland's Philly shell is definitely going to make it a lot harder for Fluffy. He's going to roll with the punches, check pretty much any kick Fluffy's going to throw. He's going to land his ones, his 1-2s, his usual teeps that we like making fun of. Anthony Hernandez is a good striker, in my opinion, just not the best. I think offensively, he's just not that imposing unless it's working with his wrestling. Isolate his striking from his wrestling, and you'll see that it's not the best. He's not that powerful. Not much of a surprise when you're built like that. I think defensively he's very good. I really like his footwork. It's not anything that dynamic like a Michael Venom Page, but he's just always in the right places, man. He's gone up against dangerous kickers like Roman Kopylov, and Roman just had nothing for him. He did hurt him at some point with a kick to the body, but aside from that, there wasn't really much he could pop off with. And coming back to those body shots I was telling you about, Anthony Hernandez is very weak to the body. I just hope he doesn't go up against some exceptional boxer with good takedown defense because if they land on his liver, I would not be surprised if he fell and winced in pain because on three occasions he's been hurt to the body. Kevin Holland, Mac Andre Barrialt, as well as Roman Kopylov. There are a lot of fighters in the UFC that have over 20 fights and not once were they hurt to the body. Even when they went up against dangerous kickers like Paulo Costa, Edson Barboza, the list goes on. So I don't think it's a coincidence for Anthony Hernandez. And I believe this is something that can be worked on, but I also think naturally some people just have weaker cores, and I guess Anthony is an example of that. Now, I don't think Sean has that many strikes he can throw to Anthony's body that would hurt him that bad, aside from the teeps. But the teeps are mostly just to keep his opponents outside and to score points on the cards. It's never really that damaging. I don't recall one instance where Sean threw a deadly teep and his opponent was coughing, wincing in pain, and felt like tapping. Nah, that never happens. And that's why we make fun of him so much. I mean, we don't want to make fun of him. I mean, he's a UFC fighter at the end of the day, but I mean, just for the memes, you know? And we have seen Sean Strickland in quite a few grappling exchanges, and more often than not, I think he got the better. Remember when he went up against Nazardine Imavov? Sean looked like an NCAA qualifier. He was taking down Imavov, controlling him, and then when he went up against DDP, he was winning the striking exchanges. So DDP resorted to wrestling, and yeah, he would take down Sean, but he couldn't really do much with him. Sean would just get back up. So I think defensively, Sean is a lot better than a lot of people think. If anything, I think people have come to the realization that he is good. His coach, Eric Nixon, was telling this story about how when he was preparing for Dricus, he was taking down Ankalaev in his training camps. Now I know that Ankalaev isn't as good of a grappler as some of his other brothers like Islam and Khamzat, but at the same time, he's a Dagestani, he's a light heavyweight, and he is a pretty decent grappler. So I think Sean can wrestle, man. I don't think that's a secret, but I just don't think he's as elite and as well-rounded as Anthony Hernandez as well as Hamza Chimaev because on top of the wrestling, Fluffy can submit these guys. I mean, we saw what he did to Roman Dolidze. He submitted a very decorated BJJ practitioner in Rodolfo Vieira. You know, not a lot of people are willing to entertain grappling exchanges with that guy. And I'm not surprised that Bo wasn't able to submit him because, heck, man, Bo is an NCAA wrestler. He's not an IBJJF champion. So, yeah, he's of course going to lift him up from the body lock and slam him. He can take down Rodolfo, no problem, but submitting is probably not going to happen. But Fluffy did that. So that's why I'm a little bit concerned for Sean Strickland in this fight, because the middleweight division is so ass that I can't recall a time when Sean went up against a really good BJJ practitioner. I mean, I would argue Brendan Allen, but Brendan is pretty young. I don't think he's hit 30 yet. And at the time when he faced Sean Strickland, he obviously wasn't the version that faced RDR. On top of that, I think Sean is just also very good and a dangerous stylistic matchup for someone like Brendan Allen, because Brendan has hands but doesn't really have the best hands. On top of that, he can't really impose as well. The thing with RDR, right? He was gassed out. On top of that, he was trying to take down Brendan, and then Brendan would defend, and the dude got out scrambled, bro. Out controlled everything. Brendan looked good in that fight, bro. So I think a lot of Sean Strickland's wins are aging very well. But I'm just not that confident in Sean Strickland's defensive submission ability because, like I said before, the middleweight division's ass, bro. We're talking Brendan Allen and Drickus. That's it, you know? So with Fluffy, there's a chance he could submit Sean, but I feel like Sean's defensive wrestling is where he's going to shine a little more. That is if he can have his way with Fluffy. But I think Fluffy's wrestling has been looking very good. The way he takes these guys down with ease. I know it's not the highest level competition, and that's why I'm not that confident in him winning as well. But I still think there's a level of dominance you need to show for you to be a slight favorite or slight underdog. And I feel like Fluffy has showed that. And with that being said, I believe that Fluffy might be able to beat Sean Strickland, most probably via decision. But there is a chance, right, that if he could really wear out Sean, he could get a submission, be it a rear naked choke, a guillotine like the one he did against Rodolfo Vieira. It has to be one of those two subs. I don't expect an armbar, a leg lock. That would be pretty embarrassing for Sean, but I don't think he should be embarrassed because it's Fluffy he's going up against. And if he's evolving as fast as I think he is, there is a possibility that that would happen. Is it low? Sure, but it's always there. But with that being said, I'm picking Fluffy to win this fight via decision.